All right, welcome everyone to our May installment of Safe Softball. Today, we are going to be talking about the Children's Bill of Rights. This is something that is fairly new in the sports landscape. If you haven't heard of Aspen Institute and the Project Play, they wrote and drafted this Bill of Rights for kids in sports with a few other entities, and USA Softball is an endorser of these Bill of Rights. So just to take you through these rights and what they are, we are going to discuss them in brief, and then I also have some special guests with me to kind of talk about the Bill of Rights from their perspective. So first of all, as I mentioned, we, USA Softball, are endorsers of the Children's Bill of Rights, which is driven by Project Play and the Aspen Institute. And so to connect all the dots for you, obviously, USOPC is a national organizing committee. USA Softball is a national governing body. And then, so with those two entities, the U.S. Center for Safe Sport has exclusive jurisdiction over sexual abuse and misconduct in the U.S. And obviously, we've talked about, and this is why we're talking about Safe Softball. Reports get made, and then there is a response and resolution process. And so that just kind of, Safe Sport also is one of the editors and drafters of the Children's Bill of Rights. And the Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball Players Association Youth Development Fund is a joint initiative that supports efforts that focus on improving the caliber, effectiveness, and availability of amateur baseball and softball programs across the U.S. and internationally. So since MLB is one of our partners, that's why I brought on a special guest speaker with us to kind of cover what MLB does from their perspective in protecting youth athletes. So now let's get into the rights. So right number one, every kid has the right to play sports. And we know, especially since 2020, we are still recovering, but kids have been leaving sports for a long time. Softball alone decreased participation by 31.3% from 2008 to 2013. So this is 15 years ago to 10 years ago. And 2020 didn't help. So we need to create more opportunities to allow kids to get back into the sport and to try it out, to be introduced to the sport. We know that kids who participate in sports have a better life in general. They're less likely to be obese, more likely to graduate. They have higher annual earnings and reduced health risks. Number two, kids have the right to safe and healthy environments. And this, again, connects the dots back to the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. And did you know, parents, that there are additional trainings that you can complete, as well as trainings for your minor athletes? So there's specific age-appropriate trainings for kids ages 5 to 12 and ages 13 to 17. They're real short, between 15 and 30 minutes. There's some animation, and it's a pretty great soft introduction as to boundaries, rights, safe sporting environment. There's also additional courses within the course catalog for Safe Sport that you are welcome to take for any purpose. Number three, all kids have the right to qualified program leaders. And this is where trained coaches is where kids have the best opportunity to be successful in sport. We know that coaches that have a strong education in injury prevention, CPR, first aid, safe sport trained, but also trained in their specific sport. If you stuck me over in basketball, I never played organized basketball, I could probably give you a general overview about how to dribble and maybe how to shoot, but that's not my primary sport, my priority sport. Now, if you put me obviously in softball, but I also played soccer for about 8 years and even tennis in high school, I could give the basics and help an athlete be successful. But we want to make sure that our coaches are well trained in the sport. And we know that that also increases participation if kids have good coaches. I had a lot of great coaches growing up, and that's what encouraged me to stay in the sport. We also know that only 25% of youth coaches in the US are women, which is a huge deficit because as a female, there's a saying out there that's, if you can see her, you can be her. And I will always go back to Kim Ng, being hired as the GM of the Marlins as the moment in my life where I thought, oh my gosh, it's actually possible for me to hold on to this dream job of being a GM of an MLB team. I know it's a long shot, but up until that moment, I honestly did not think it was possible. So to figure out, find more avenues, more pathways to get more women involved in coaching. Also, every kid has the right for developmentally appropriate play. And this is something where we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The USOPC actually created the American Development Model, and there are 5 stages that are age appropriate and the experiences that kids should have based on their age. For example, my son is 3 years old. He played a year of soccer, but I would probably not put him out on the field with a bunch of 10-year-olds and expect him to score a goal and take a ball down the field by himself at 3. He's barely figuring out how to kick a ball without falling on his backside. So we want to make sure that kids have access to age-appropriate activities and just introduces them to just being able to play and experience and not have the pressure of competition or winning. The next one is all kids have the right to share in the planning and delivery of their activities. And I think this is something that a lot of people don't consider, especially when they're coaching, is to ask the kids or ask the athletes what they want to do to make themselves better. This research was done by the Journal of Physical Activity and Health, and they actually ask kids which aspects are more fun in your sport and which aspects are less fun. And you can see up at the top, they want to try their best and they want a coach to treat them with respect, to have playing time, and to play together as a team. Far, far down on that list is winning and getting pictures taken and traveling and tournaments and trophies and medals. They actually want to have more fun. And I think this was seen on the largest platform during the World Baseball Classic, when you saw all of those athletes being able to compete and participate for their country. They had the most fun because it was something that they were able to represent, something bigger than themselves. All kids have the right to an equal opportunity for personal growth. And this is something that, as a national governing body, we have oversight of the entire country. That's a pretty large geographical ground to cover. And the great thing about that is we don't have to do it alone. There are a lot of other organizations, community-based, school-based, other national governing bodies that are doing very similar work that we are doing across the country. And actually, Project Play created a series of community reports that highlights what's going on in each area. So for example, the State of Play from Oakland just came out. So you can flip through here and find out what youth like most about playing sports. You can see how to encourage sports sampling and the 5 key findings in Oakland. So there's a lot of really interesting facts about each specific geographical area. Coming in 2023, there's a few more: Tacoma Pierce up in Washington, Aspen to Parachute, which is in Colorado, and Baton Rouge in Louisiana. So I'm looking forward to reading those reports and seeing what the state of play is in those areas. And to be treated with dignity. And this goes back to our Safe Softball webinar back in March and our national partner with Know Your Role. And there are really great short clips from Know Your Role, talking about how kids just want to participate, they want to be respected, and encourages athletes and parents and coaches to know where they are in the grand scheme of the game and observing or playing and being respectful on the field.
We love our sports here. It's our responsibility to keep them great. And we need you to know your role. You can be a player.
You can be a coach. You can be a spectator or an official.
But you only get to be one.
Know your role.
Parents, release your kid to the game.
It's my experience.
Don't yell at the refs. They have a hard job.
Know your role.
Players, respect your opponents.
Love to play, win or lose.
All right. And the final right is they have the right to enjoy themselves. So right now there's this pyramid that exists in sport. And at the bottom, the majority of people play recreational, but then you get to this hyper competitive levels of travel, high school, college, and pro. And the number of participants decreases with each level. So what we want to consider shifting to is more of a pillar. So you have physical literacy, teaching kids how to run, jump, balance, really simple physical capabilities. But then on top of that, the majority of athletes are going to participate in recreational. And then you have this smaller percentage in competitive and elite. But in the grand scheme of things, you're encouraging participation from what I call from cradle to the grave. So people are always going to want to participate. And we know that if they start participating at a young age and it's fun, they're going to keep participating. I honestly stopped playing towards the end of high school because it just wasn't fun for me anymore. And I wasn't enjoying myself on the field. I took a couple of years off, played in a the women's league after high school. Again, took another few years off, started coaching, enjoyed that. And then I played in some adult slow pitch. And this adult slow pitch is some of the most fun times I've ever had on the field. And so we want to encourage people to participate for their entire lifetime. So what can we do with this information? Well, our local associations can partner with community organizations or professional teams to support programming. For example, MLB has a baseball and softball development initiative called Play Ball, and that is a great opportunity to introduce kids to the sport, baseball or softball, or partner with other sport organizations to encourage sport sampling. Let me tell you, when I started playing tennis, after those 2 years of playing tennis, I was so strong in softball. My hands were so much quicker. My agility improved. And we know that multi-sport athletes are better athletes and they are more resistant to injuries. Parents and caregivers, you should ask your sport providers about their policies and practices. Are the coaches getting background checked? Is my kid safe on the field? Also, give your kid a voice in the design of their sports and ask what they want. Honestly, I asked my 3-year-old, do you want to keep playing soccer or do you want to take swim lessons? And he opted for the swim lessons. So we're taking a break from soccer and that's okay. And also be active. Get out there and participate with your kid. We know that the most active kids also have the most active parents. And kids, know your rights and share what matters to you with adults shaping your sport activities. We hope to hear from you more often. And so with that, we are going to move on to the next part of our webinar and invite Catherine Anderson. She is the Youth Compliance Officer at MLB. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you, Allison. I'm happy to be with you all today to discuss the importance of minor athlete protection measures and how we at Major League Baseball support these initiatives, not just through our relationship with USA Softball, but independently through our own organization. So when we look at the rights that Allison just went through, we're going to really pinpoint in on rights 2 and 3, which is creating a safe and healthy environment for our youth participants and creating qualified program leaders. So just as a quick overview, MLB runs a wide scope of youth programming, which some of you may have interacted with. But organizationally, I want to just give you an overview of where we sit in the space and why it's important to us, not just in our relationship with USA Softball, but organizationally for ourselves. So as Allison stated, my role at Major League Baseball is Youth Protection Compliance Officer, which is a role that's dedicated to the oversight and implementation of our own youth policy, which is our MLB Youth Program Protection Policy. And this policy applies both domestically and internationally to all youth athletic programming that's run by us in the Office of the Commissioner, all 30 major league clubs, and now also includes the PDL or the Professional Development League team. So really wide scope of groups that can be working with youth in your community that we have implemented this policy from a protection standard. Internally at the Office of the Commissioner level, our policy reaches across a spectrum of programming. And some of those things include our elite development programming that we operate with USA Softball and our other NGB partner, USA Baseball. We also run internal independently run development program on both the softball and the baseball side. And then most importantly, and one of our biggest reaches is from the grassroots level. So that includes RBI, or Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities. And as Allison pointed out, a lot of our play ball initiatives that are in our local communities. So when it comes to the Bill of Rights in 2 and 3 and creating a safe sport environment and creating qualified coaches and adults that work, our policy hints at 2 major sides. One of which is from an administration perspective, and the other is from a behavioral standard perspective. So from an administration side, our policy does require background checks and annual child abuse prevention and mandatory reporting training, which we offer Safe Sport and its accompanying refresher courses for the adults, both paid and volunteer, that work as a part of our programming. Additionally, and one really important facet on the administration side that we work to educate on is our reporting standards. We have required reporting standards both externally to local authorities in the jurisdiction of which you operate your programming, as well as internally in MLB, so we can make sure that we have the reporting component covered on all sides. The second half of our policy covers behavioral standards, which reviews a lot of really important specific topics for both coaches, and then down the line for others to understand, such as physical conduct guidelines, verbal interactions, electronic communications, and how you communicate with your participants, all the way down to travel and lodging standards. So we have a fairly expansive policy, and I think it really comes down to why. Why do we have this policy? Why do we implement at MLB? And we're really looking to create a safe sport environment for our participants to learn and to have a game and a positive athletic experience across the board. Again, we have a lot of programming, and we continue to grow in this space, not only with our partners like USA Softball, but independently as an organization. And we want to make sure that we're creating the safest environment for participants from development down to grassroots. Additionally, we're looking to create a safe environment for our coaches. We want to make sure that they feel confident in being able to provide good leadership and guidance for our participants. So again, from the grassroots to the elite level, we want to make sure that they're qualified and feel confident in their role and what they're doing. So I think protecting youth, but also creating qualified leaders to carry on our programming, really spans across the central office and then all the way across the US and globally through the programming that we run. Just based off our policies implementation, we're a couple of years in now, and we've seen some really positive effects that's come out of implementing these standards from the top down. So we do have these background check measures in place, and I think it's a natural step to have these. It naturally eliminates certain risks and threats that you may not know about without conducting a background check. So it's pretty standard across the board and really integral to what we do as a first stop. Second is that training. Whether through Safe Sport or through otherwise, training is integral to teaching coaches and leaders how to work with youth, both on and off the field. I have firsthand experience and knowledge in watching people that work as a part of our programming to see how annual training highlights certain scenarios that may not have flagged for them before, prior to doing the training, that we hear about. So the training provides kind of like real life scenarios that we teach in our policy, but training really provides you kind of a tangible way to hear about our policy through these scenarios in a way that's really impactful. So I think it brings to light, certain ways to act for your coaches, but also what to watch for and how to report. So I think across the board, both of those measures really create solid programming that protects both your adults and your participants. So that's kind of a big overview of our policy. To wrap it up, it's important to reflect on how these measures not only create a safe environment for our children, but again, build a better coaching environment that every organization should really strive for. And overall, it just creates the best environment for our children to enjoy themselves and helps us continue to develop the sport in a positive way, whether you choose to play at a local level and stop there or compete competitively from a development level. We want to drive, again, a lifelong interest and love of the sport. And we're going to do that by creating a positive experience that your children will get by having great coaches that are ready to participate in the way that we need them to. Thanks, Allison.
Awesome. Yes, thank you so much. And love to hear that MLB is making so much effort into encouraging a safe sporting environment. Speaking of safe sporting environments, we've got somebody with us who has been in a sporting environment for a while, and has experienced those environments since she was very young, all the way up to the largest stage at the Olympics. So welcome, Michelle Moultrie, 2020 Olympian.
Hi.
So Michelle, you've experienced, different coaches, different fields of play, different environments, all the way through every level of the game. So how important are these rights to you as an athlete? And how have you seen your environment change over time, but also at the different levels?
I think these rights are really important. I think there's a lot of similarity between even pro and college and all the way down to youth and rec. Even thinking of some of the slides that was saying that the kids, the things that they said that they enjoyed the most was like having fun, being with each other. Those things matter as well to like professional athletes. Like if they get along with their teammates, it plays a big deal on how they perform. And so I think there's a lot of things about these rights that are really, really good for athletes of all ages. I really loved kind of even just the first one of just the athlete's ability to participate. I think of just I played rec softball for a long time, and even probably up until like my dad kept me in rec, even when I was better than I could have just played travel or something. But I played pretty much all the way through high school, still playing rec softball, because I think it's important. Like definitely has an important community aspect, but you never want to exclude people just because it's their first time playing. So I think of someone who's maybe like 14, you don't want them to say, I can't go play softball because everyone else is way ahead of me. You want them to still have that chance to play on a team, whether it's a rec team or a high school team, and be able to go out, and maybe they're not the best player ever, but they still have the ability to be on a team, learn a new sport, do something new. I think it's just really an awesome thing to encourage athletes to have that right to go try something new, go play a sport. So that was something that I really thought was good. I also liked the other, I think it was number 2, and it's just creating a safe right to create like a safe environment for athletes. And I think one of the things about coaching, I think a lot of times people who are adults now, they came from like a tougher mindset of like, to be a coach, you have to be super tough on everyone. And I like now that you still can be tough, but I like the things about like safe sport, having some more education on where's the line between tough and abusive, if you're not letting them get water or you're running them too much or something like that. So it's just things that kind of, I think in the past, we might have just taken as like, this is just the standard sports environment. But I think it's good that we're getting more educated, and then we can kind of learn how to create a really safe environment for athletes to be in. And I think also just, I love the point of just mixing discipline with fun as I go. So even now I'm like, sometimes I go and I coach different groups, or I do something like MLB play ball, and kids want to have fun. Especially the younger kids, if they don't want it to be 100% always drills and always serious, the kids, they like to have a fun drill or to race at the end. I want to race around the bases or something silly that, it's just fun for them. And it's important for us to kind of ask them like their opinion and what types of things that they like, so that it's not always so business like coming out to the field. You don't want your sport to be, just only about winning or only about making it a means to a career or something. It kind of takes the fun out of the game. So it's important to keep those aspects of fun just still in practices and games and the environment that you create as a coach. And then along that aspect of kind of, I think with sports becoming such a little bit more of a way to a career, which is a good thing. If someone I think before, even for me, I always thought of when I was playing rec sports, I just thought of, well, I'm just here. I didn't necessarily think it was going to lead me somewhere later in life, which it did, which is a great thing for women's sports and great thing for sports in general. But I think it's important just to remember that kids are kids and trying to not put that pressure on a 10-year-old or something to only perform or to think of it as like, well, if I don't do great right now, I'm not going to do great later. I'm not going to be a professional baseball player. Just giving them some grace in situations like that and letting kids just enjoy their experience. So I think that these rights are really great for athletes of all ages, and especially like as a pro athlete, like looking back, I think that these rights are really important, especially for the youth. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. And well said. So if you want more information on the Children's Bill of Rights or more toolkits or resources or data, you can go to, just Google Project Play and it'll come up, or Children's Bill of Rights in Sports. All of the community state of play reports are available for free, so you can download all of that information. And if there's something that you are in your hometown or in your city and you want more support and you're not sure who to reach out to, shoot us an email to membership@usasoftball.com and we will connect you with your local association commissioner and get you plugged in. And if you're a community organization and you want to get connected with USA Softball, again, shoot us an email and we will connect you. So thank you, Catherine and Michelle, for joining us. I appreciate your time and I hope everybody has a great weekend.